Hey guys, and welcome back to ScarletSprites. Well, today I'm sharing some thoughts on you with the RetroTINK 4K, and like some of the videos before this one, I need to be absolutely crystal clear that this is not a review. I honestly wouldn't even know where to begin because the volume of options with this thing, coupled with the multitude of systems and their various outputs, it's just so wildly overwhelming. And let's be honest, My Life in Gaming just cranked out an hour-long episode on a lot of these details, covered them phenomenally well, and even those guys, after an hour, didn't get through everything that they wanted to. I mean, there's black frame insertion, shadow masks, scanline generation, HDR insertion, and basically just about anything that you would need to process your sources and make them look razor sharp or appear as though they're running on a PVM. So after a quick overview here, I'm going to focus on just one very simple but important thing to arcade gamers that has made this scaler my go-to device. So this is my beta unit. I've had it for a few months now, and like a few of my peers, I've been testing various inputs and sources. You'll note that I'm also sporting the beta Tuxedo case here, and to be honest, I kind of like the black and white tandem that's going on. That said, the retail unit is a very elegant black, carries the RetroTINK name stamped on the sliding door, as well as the TINK logo on top. So while I'm missing those little details, I do have hand-labeled inputs on the back of my unit from the man himself, so bite me. I'm pretty excited to see these units hitting the wild though, as I suspect we'll see custom cases from a number of sources. I saw LaserBear tweet the other day that he is already working on a case that supports a fan mod, so I think it's a safe assumption we'll be getting options in this department. At some point I'll pick something else up, but for now, Tuxedo it is. I think most of you watching know that the arcade scene is where I live and dedicate most of my time these days. I still play and enjoy my consoles, but for the purposes of YouTube and even my own personal free time, I choose to focus on arcade games far more often than not. So in the last year, I acquired a Supergun Mini built by Oxenworks that allowed me to play my arcade boards outside of my machines. You can kind of think of the device as an instant arcade board consolizer. You plug it in and it allows you to use a DB15 Neo Geo style controller, and it gives you component video outputs and left and right audio for a TV. It's a great device for someone who doesn't have space for cabinets, or if you just want to get your fix without swapping PCBs in a machine. Now this isn't going to be a deep dive, there are some caveats to this, but for the purposes of today, I'm going to show you, again, in general, what happens if you run some of these arcade boards through a scaler like the RetroTINK 5X. Keep in mind, I'm using the 5X in this example, but some of these behaviors apply to other scalers as well. Alright, here is Battletoads hooked up to the 5X. The game has a refresh rate of 60.79 Hz, and you can see we get a picture here, but check out how the image is cropped on the sides. You can also see the black bar across the bottom in the attract mode. Now the game is certainly playable, but it's not displayed perfectly via the 5X, presumably because of that slightly out of spec refresh rate. Now in contrast though, the Neo Geo Hyper 64 runs 480i at a higher 61.65 Hz refresh rate, and it looks totally fine. Similarly, the Namco System 11 hardware runs at a clean 60 Hz, and it looks great like we'd expect. So what happens when we drop lower and get really outside that 60 Hz comfort zone for the 5X? Well, here's Gauntlet Dark Legacy. 57 Hz reported by MAME, and on the 5X, yikes, the picture is overly bright, really washed out, and has this ugly curl happening at the top. Unless you're really tolerant, you aren't playing this game like this. It's pretty ugly, and it's really hard on the eyes after just a few minutes. Sticking with Midway, let's take a look at Super High Impact Football. It has a refresh rate of 54.7 Hz, much lower than the Gauntlet game we just looked at, and yeah, we don't even get a picture with this one. It's completely unplayable. And look, these are boards that I have easy access to that I'm grabbing. You might say you don't care about High Impact Football, but it also runs on the same hardware as Smash TV. And similarly, Mortal Kombat runs at this same low 54.7 refresh rate. meaning there's a whole bunch of great Midway games that you aren't going to be playing with the 5X. Now, there are ways around that by introducing a pre-scaler and complicating your setup a little bit more, but in general, using the 5X with a basic setup, playing these games just isn't happening. So I got a few more here for you. Street Fighter the Movie, the arcade board. This one I'm a little unsure of. MAME reports a 384 by 240 resolution at 60.1 Hertz. But I'm wondering if the resolution doesn't switch between 240 and 480i on this one, because the 5X flickers and is never really able to lock in and display a picture. I know others have had difficulty with scalers and the IT boards as well, and yes, this is Incredible Technologies' piece of hardware, not something Capcom developed themselves. Regardless of the why though, it's unplayable on the RetroTINK 5X, as there's seemingly something non-standard about this board. And here's NFL Blitz 2000 Gold, and at this point you guys get the idea, it's completely unplayable. This is another Midway board with a 57 Hz refresh rate that unfortunately just can't sync with the 5X or other mid-level scalers. It's another big arcade title that you just can't play. Well, as if you didn't know this big reveal was coming, let me introduce you to the arcade scaling savior, the RetroTINK 4K. Let's go back to our first example, Battletoads. And that one came in a little funky on the 5X, and here it is looking squished on the 4K. Let me show you this awesome little built-in feature called Auto Crop, and boom, fixed. Almost. Using this will get you like 99% of the way there most of the time, and then you can go in and tweak the cropping to give yourself a perfectly framed picture. At this point, you guys know you can even save these profiles, so the next time you load up your Battletoads game, you won't even have to do this again. Alright, Gauntlet Dark Legacy hooked up to the RetroTINK 4K. That overly white picture with the gross curling at the top, gone. Nothing but a gorgeous picture here for Gauntlet. I mean, absolutely gorgeous 3D gameplay upscaled to 4K. The colors are even really striking on this one. I'm not sure how well this will look on camera, but the reds and overall contrast on this, it's just superb right out of the box. No tweaking on my part. This is the default profile on the 4K. Proof that you don't need to drive yourself completely crazy with the settings on the RetroTINK to have a great picture. I mean, hey, they're there for you to fool with, and it'll be difficult to stop yourself from doing so, but it's not completely necessary. You can just fire up your boards and roll more often than not. Super High Impact Football and a lot of those other 90s Midway games like Mortal Kombat, Smash TV, etc., no problem for the RetroTINK 4K. These are all up and running beautifully. No sync issues or fooling around here with settings or external prescalers. This stuff just works. Plug in your inputs and go. This is no hassle arcade scaling, people. And yes, NFL Blitz is perfectly fine here too. Your Midway Seattle hardware will all just work fine with the RetroTINK 4K. I even had the BioFreaks prototype going a little while back, as if you even doubted it at this point. Here's that somewhat notorious Street Fighter the Movie board, and it just works. We're up and playing, and I'm sure you're not even shocked. Also going to quickly demonstrate something else with this one. I've been using the component connection on the RetroTINK 4K for all of these boards so far, but what if you wanted to use a device like Oxenworks' JAMA extractor for streaming purposes? Well, here you go. I can switch between the component and SCART inputs on the RetroTINK 4K on the fly, and I'm still good. The game plays via component or SCART. Speaking of inputs, that's a good segue to the final beast of a setup here that I'll show running. This is Virtua Fighter 3 running off of my floor. Sometimes you just gotta roll with how the sausage is made with videos like this, okay? But this is Sega Model 3 hardware, and I'm using the VGA out on this to the RetroTINK 4K. Now the 5X didn't even have a VGA input, and so simply by design, I'm able to cobble together a setup that allows me to play this game somewhat easily outside of a cabinet. Somewhat. The rest of this is still kind of messy, but you get the idea. As you can see, I can still tweak scan lines, masks, and the like with this through any of the inputs as well. So I hope this was something a little different than some of the other RetroTINK 4K videos I know you guys are undoubtedly getting hit with. Not really one to mess with a ton of scanline and mask settings, but I mean, hell, for me, I just wanted my games to work and be playable. Like, that's kind of a big deal, but of course, all those other options that are built into the 4K are there for you. I'm just thrilled to have Midway games and the other odd refresh rate boards running. I should also clarify that nothing is wrong with the 5X in what I showed. Other mid-level scalers handle non-standard signals the same way, which is to say, they don't. The 5X is truly an awesome device and is probably suitable for 95% of the use cases out there. Sometimes my needs are just a little extra, so the RetroTINK 4K is here to solve those woes, and it's on sale December 9th. There is a link in the description for that. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will catch you all next time. Later, guys.